I'm all shook up. Woo! Welcome back to another week of your favorite podcast, 21st Century Rocker Mom podcast with me, your host, Tanya Candler. And we're here. Welcome to the parish of St. Alfonso. I'm glad to be back with you for another week. And what a week it's been. It's been a weird week. It's been like a long sort of week. It's been a strange week. Obviously the Stranger Things is gone. That was last week with you. That was so last week. If you haven't caught up on Stranger Things 4 yet, I certainly hope that you do so. Everyone's talking about it. No, everyone's actually talking about all kinds of things. I mean, we've had hot weather, we've had hot sauces, and we've had all kinds of hot things happening. And I mean, like last week we had hot sauce on the show. We were tasting hot sauce, and I was tasting a really hot one. I tasted the ghost pepper sauce, the ghost busted sauce from Scoville City, and it was burning. It was hot. It was very hot. But hot tip, huge hot tip, people. Yesterday, the internet broke. I mean, I guess the internet broke if you're on Rogers, and I am, and we are as a household. So if your internet provider was Rogers, or is Rogers, or was Rogers, I don't know what you're doing now. We all got Rogered for 14 or 18 hours. I don't know how many hours it was. Some people were like, it's hackers. Other people were like, it's a software glitch. I'm like, anyways, all I know is it did not work. It was like an internet, breakage. It just completely just nothing. Radio silence. But you know what? It wasn't horrible. It wasn't a bad thing. But was it that horrible that we didn't have internet? I couldn't make a phone call. I had emergency calls only. That's scary if you can't call your doctor or something like that. There's always ways to get a hold of people, But is it such a bad thing that we lost that stuff for a day? I really don't think it was all that bad. What did you do? I called it Pioneer Day around here just to kind of make a joke out of it because it's funny. And I said, guys, we're gonna just have to live like the pioneers, because the kids are just the iPads don't work. So what if it rains outside? You can play Play-Doh and stuff. You know what I mean? It's they always forget that these things exist. Unless they want to play with them. Unless they're completely they've got a thought in their head. They wake up in the morning and they're like, oh, I want to make this out of Play-Doh, or I want to make this out of kinetic sand or whatever. I think they forget those manipulable materials are there because they can go just pick up a video game controller whenever they feel like it. But then I'm just go outside. So, oh my gosh. So what did we do for Pioneer Day? What did you do for Pioneer Day? What did you do the day the internet broke? Did you flip out and crack out all your treasure trove of things that we used to use? And I mean, things that actually I still use now. What did I crack out? My record player that I use daily, my tape player that I use daily, my CD player that I use daily. It wasn't a bad thing not to have her who will not speak of, Alexa. Because if she hears me say her fucking name, because she's in every room in this goddamn house, if she hears me say her name, she'll start talking to me and you. And I don't want to talk to her right now. So, Alexa, I don't want to say anything. That's about as loud as I'll say it. But yesterday, I did a lot of Monopoly playing and outside work. I did some banging around. I fixed the deck a couple days ago. I did some baseball playing, all kinds of things. I basically, what did you do for the day that the internet was out? The same thing I did, as a kid growing up. It wasn't really the pioneer days, but to my kids, it's the olden days. What do we do without technology? Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. It's such a strange and uncomfortable concept for kids, growing up in such a technological age to grasp that. And I mean, and I think for a lot of people too that work the majority of their job with technology, they were screwed. I mean, we couldn't even get dog food yesterday because all debit machines were down and we didn't have cash on us. You know what I mean? It's we forget about these little conveniences and we forget how privileged and lucky we are. And then, what happens? Something like that, the internet goes down for a sec, And people treat it like it's the greatest like conundrum ever. When really there are bigger things that we could be spending our time on. And then we have like politicians trying to like twist it to their narrative. Well, if I was in power, this never would have happened. I'm like, I see a lot of like Twitter shit about that. With my favorite hilarious penis of a politician, Pierre Poilievre. He's talking about, he was on Twitter this morning, hilariously talking about like if he was in power, this would have never happened with the internet. We have to make more service providers more responsible. I'm like, good luck doing that with telecom. And I love how, imagine being a person who is able to twist their narrative and twist the narrative of whatever is going on in the world to exactly what, to fit their story and fit their narrative. Welcome to the life of politicians. You want to save the planet, guys? Don't eat vegan, eat a politician. I think that's something that Frank Zappa would probably say. Oh my God. But like I say yesterday, going back to the pioneer days and things like that, doing things that I don't usually get to pause and do as much as I want to do. Like I read a lot, but not more for research than for funsies. But of course I have my like fun books, but I picked up a book of You're Looking for Trouble, boom, 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 you came to the right place, boom, 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 boom. If you're looking for trouble, read Elvis, What Happened by members of the Memphis Mafia, the guys that Sonny West and Red West and a few of the guys that were in the Memphis Mafia that were basically like a group of gentlemen that were put together by Elvis Presley himself to kind of protect him. They all were like packing weapons and guns because like we're talking America and also like the 60s and 70s and like the South and like loose gun laws. I'm gonna have a sip of me mud water. Woo! It's got some of that Scoville City honey in it because I need a kick in the ass sometimes. So in my mud water, instead of blending regular honey, I started blending that Scoville City honey. And it's got that hot pepper in it. And it's like a desiccated, dried out pepper. And it's got the seeds and the ribs and all and everything like that. So it makes it really punchy. And it just like, it tastes like a cinnamon heart and a bee like had a fucking delicious baby. And it's that honey. And so I put it in my mud water and it's bomb. Throw a little oat and coconut milk in there and you're good to go. And your brain feels better and more alive. So as I said, the Memphis Mafia, like I say, these group of people to protect Elvis. And how far did they go to protect Elvis? Well, they went so far as to write a book. They told kind of like these stories were as told to this biographer who wrote the book about Elvis and the Elvis What Happened book. And it kind of went from, Elvis was born in 1940, in Tupelo, Mississippi, to Gladys and Vernon Presley. The same kind of thing that you'd always get spat out at you if you read like a Wikipedia. But then it kind of delved deeper into, the fame and the success and the fortune and, the depression of knowing that he was a twin and his twin passed away, his strange relationship with his mom, strange relationship kind of with women, and kind of a Madonna complex. You read a little bit more about Elvis. Kind of had a thing about virgins, younger women. And then kind of getting into the later stages of things when Elvis was really performing hard and there was a lot of demand on him. And I find the more demand there is on you as an artist of any sort, as a performer, as a creator, whatever you are, the more demand there is on you, the more stress there is on you. The way Elvis handled his stress was drugs and alcohol and substances and things like that. He was an addict, unfortunately. And some of these members of the Memphis Mafia decided they were going to tell some of the stories and, kind of the goings on and the things that were happening to Elvis in almost an event to be like an OG intervention, like those things that you used to see on A&E. Remember when they had the guy from Days of the New on there? Travis, oh fuck. He was like addicted to heroin and all kinds of things. Holy smokes. Back to Elvis. Like I'm saying, so this was like an OG intervention. So you hear the intervention music coming in from A&E and seriously, they tried to kind of tell the story of what was going on with Elvis out of I think genuine concern for their friend who they thought, like, you're going down the wrong path, like you're gonna fucking die. And they wrote this book in the 70s, and it was supposed to be like a wake-up call for Elvis to be like, hey, listen, man. Like, he was getting really out there. He was continually like falling asleep in his soup and his lunches. He was getting bigger and bigger. He was eating really irresponsibly. He wasn't really having a healthy lifestyle. There was a point where he put a hit out on a former karate instructor he'd had named Mike Stone, who had actually hooked up with his ex at the time, they're not together anymore. Priscilla Presley, who still goes by obviously Priscilla Presley, but Priscilla Bolio was her maiden name, and they met obviously in Germany when he was stationed there. When he was in the army, Elvis was a GI Blues kind of guy. He had gotten divorced from Priscilla Presley, and she actually ended up dating Mike Stone, and she was kind of on his arm. And there was a point where Elvis was kind of getting so paranoid from all the drugs and the craziness and, the thing that is, Vegas and the performing there and like how that all went. That's a whole completely different show on its own. Elvis could be like a 3-hour special. You let me know if you want that. But like, really, he put a hit out. He wanted to put a hit out on Mike Stone, and he's having like a frantic telephone conversation with one of the gentlemen from the Memphis Mafia saying, I want you to kill him. I want him dead, and things like that. And this is how far the drug use and, the cocaine, everyone's heard the stories with Elvis, the cocaine, the liquid cocaine on the cotton swabs, up your nose, before the shows to kind of wake you up, taking something to wake up, taking something to go to bed, drinking copious amounts of things, eating copious amounts of bad fucking food, really bad food. And like, 5 and 6 and 7 steaks, and then fried chicken, and then peanut butter, banana, and bacon sandwiches. Like, and then, he had collard greens. Apparently Elvis really liked collard greens. So, at least he was getting some vegetables in there. He was definitely getting enough protein. But you get more protein from a bowl of broccoli, Elvis. Holy shit. But like I say, like, live by the sword, die by the sword. It's hard when you're an addict. Addiction is hard. So these guys wrote Elvis, what happened in an event to save their friend. Did it work? No. Elvis passed away, consequently, very young in 1977. And as a result of that sort of lifestyle. So I guess it's hip to be square, you know what I mean? Sometimes you have to be that wet blanket. We will get on to wet blankets later, but like sometimes it's just hipper to be squarer and cut some things out, and you might be here a little bit longer. Like I see on the news, because everything, started coming back up on Twitter and those social media platforms and things like that, and TikTok specifically. And I hear that Bam Margera, who had recently been celebrating his sobriety from alcohol and drugs and things like that, I heard that he had gotten out of rehab again. And it's like, rehab is the real shit. I'm going to tell you this right now. And I'm not fucking shitting on anyone who goes to rehab right now. Because guess what? I'm going to be fucking real as fuck with you. I've fucking been there. I haven't been to rehab, like a rehab facility, but I've done the rehab and sweated it out at home. Because after a very bad car accident, I got addicted to my painkillers. And the doctor knew that that's the body's biological reaction, and it's the brain's reaction to opioids. Your opioid receptors get to like those things, and then your pain starts changing, and you start doing different things to handle your pain, and maybe you don't want to take painkillers anymore, and you start trying not to take them anymore, and then you get really, really, really sick. And you got to go to your doctor and say, hey, what happened? And the doctor says, your body likes these a lot. We got to start taking you off these pills. So rehab is fucking no joke. It is puking, shitting your pants, fucking vivid dreams, sweating it out, fucking nightmare. Like, I'm not going to tell you some vivid stories of getting, clean off of things, but it's good to be sober. Like I say, it's fucking hip to be square. It's over 3 years now, way over 3 years for me with sobriety and like not touching a fucking drop. I don't want alcohol in my system. I'm good. It may work for some folks. It does not work for this kid. It just does not at all. But seeing that Bam Margera had that stint in rehab, and then he's like broken out, and there's pictures of him like partying all over the internet, and it's like, it's really sad to see. But the saddest thing to see was, and this ties into all the Elvis stuff, like, when do you speak out, and like, how scared are you for your friend that you're willing to speak out and really bare your soul and say some stuff and risk losing your friendship over, risk losing your friend? Like, yeah, I gotta say, if this person's in an abusive relationship, is this person in a like a relationship with a substance where they're abusing that? Like, do you speak up and say something to that person, to their family members, to the people that care about them, to the world, like on the internet? Like, Steve-O had a very tearful and emotional conversation during an interview talking about Bam Margera kind of being at a rehab and kind of being off the wagon and things like that. And he kind of likened it to having a headache and smashing yourself in the head with a hammer. It's like, now you got two problems. You know what I mean? And it was just sad to see him talk about his friend that way, and he didn't shit on him. It was like no disrespect at all. He was sad. He was sad for his friend, and sad that, he's had so many tries in rehab and he keeps falling down and falling off the wagon. And he understands that it's hard as an addict to kind of kick that. But at the same time, it's like, do you want to follow Ryan Dunn? Everybody knows what happened to Ryan Dunn. And seeing some of Bam Margera's Instagram posts, and even Steve-O, they kind of asked him in the interview, like, do you think he's been sober this whole, like, do you think he got 7 months sober under his belt? And he was like, no, man. Because like old habits kind of die hard. And I think friends who are really close to you, really know like what's going on. You know what I mean? They know what's up. Plus, some of the Instagram posts that he was making were a little bit like really over the top. So like buying a Bentley and then getting it stolen, and he had all these crazy glittery teeth and swearing about stuff, and then like 2 seconds later being sober and like, posting a family picture and being like, thank goodness for family. And then now all these kind of antics and stuff going on. It's just, it was kind of classically, it was like the classic fall off the wagon post. And it's, to me, honestly, like it's sad, because truly and honestly, I've been on the other side of it, and coming through on the other side and being sober like now is it's so different. And I can look at it through like different eyes, I guess, and look at sobriety through different eyes, and also look at addiction through different eyes, because it's a disease and it's an illness and it sucks. And people don't see it as a disease. People still shit on it, and that is shitty. That is shitty. Yeah, people can't see it for, what it is, because it's more invisible than people think. Now, that was wet. That drink was wet. And I said that I was going to come back to talking about wet blankets. Wet blankets. Who takes a blanket into the bath? Fucking nobody. Who's got the personality of a wet mop? I know how. How do you spell wet blanket? K-A-R-E-N. I got to tell you a story about some wet blanket ass neighbors. If you don't know what a wet blanket is, it's like a party pooper, who's somebody who's just a Karen who complains for fucking no reason. They just want to talk to the manager all the time. And I mean, excuse the term Karen, because I know that it offends some people, but that's just, it's been used. It's there. Karen! It just reminds me of Ray Liotta yelling at his wife in Goodfellas. So like for me, that's Karen. Okay. Just somebody who's just getting kind of nitpicky about stuff and, not take any shit. I wish Karens were more like Lorraine Bracco's character in Goodfellas, but I wish she was the original, like actual Karen. But I think the people behind us that live behind our house, our neighbors behind us, are the original Karens, because we're tight, like super tight, like with our neighbors on both sides. They're super cool. Like our dogs, like, chit chat through the fence and hang out and talk to each other. There's one lady on one side of us, and she lives like she has like 6 million cats, and she's so nice, and I'll leave bread on her porch and stuff like that. She lives by herself, so like I'll go shovel her driveway for her, and like in the winter and stuff. And we have to live beside each other, so we have to obviously like get along, and everything's cool. Everyone's like quiet and chill, and everything's cool. And so obviously we have Willie Nelson, and he's a puppy. When he goes to the fence and sees another dog, he barks to say hello, like only like once or twice, but he barks to say hello. So we get an email the other night being like, And it's from these neighbors that live behind us. We've noticed a lot of excessive noise in the backyard and constant dog barking. I'm like, I was actually kind of like shocked to get this email because like we're really like quiet people. If like we're outside, we're like in the garden. The kids are in the pool making normal kid sounds like that everyone's kids make in the neighborhood. My neighbors on the one side have like 3 or 4 kids too, and they're always out in the swing set and they're like, you know, hooting and hollering, but they're having fun. They're not being unnecessarily like noisy and making like weird sounds, and they're being kids, like having a summer, having fun. So they have a pool outside too. So their kids are swimming and carrying on, having fun. Our kids are, you know, swimming and carrying on. So I bet you they're getting an email too, or a knock at the door, heaven forbid. So these people told us that we were excessively loud. So now for like the last like couple days, they haven't been outside. Like, cause Rob's like, well, let's just like have like a fence conversation. Like, do any neighbors just have like a fence conversation anymore? Like I talk to both sides, like been like next door neighbors, like through the fence, like all the time. We always have like fence chats, and they're always like, you know, Tanya, my one neighbor says to me, he always says the same thing. He's like, I love these fence chats. They're great. I love this. Like I love being neighbors with you guys. And like our neighbor on the other side says the same thing. The only thing she ever yells about is when her like grandkid's sticking his hand through the fence, and she's like, you leave that dog alone to her grandkid. So like that's about the only like crap that happens over there. But like literally, like that's the most drama I've ever had in my life. And I've had some bad neighbors. So for these people to like email us, to me was really like laughable. I'm just like, how are we loud? Like I don't have parties outside. Nobody comes over and like hoops and hollers around the campfire. We haven't had a bonfire in a little bit. Like no smoke goes into anyone's yard. I'm pretty like respectful when it comes to neighbors, because I have had some of the worst fucking neighbors ever. I've also had some of the best neighbors. So I got to tell both stories. But like literally, I've had some of the worst neighbors. I had neighbors at one time. I'll tell one story about bad neighbors and just keep the negative to a minimal. But it's funny. So I had these neighbors, and it was the first house that I ever bought, and I lived beside them. They were like right next door neighbors. The neighbors on the one side were amazing. It was a Czechoslovakian couple. They were fantastic. They had a gigantic Doberman. His name was Boris. He was like best friends and boyfriends with my dog, Guinness. Rest his soul, my poor Guinness. And I miss him. But yeah, they were boyfriends. They'd hang over the fence and like kiss each other's faces and everything like that. So like we like dressed them up for Pride, and it was a thing. But it was like a million years ago. So this is like the first house I ever bought. So I bought it was like in my 20s. And the neighbors on the one side, believe it or not, they were like named after a character on a very famously racist TV show called All in the Family. I'm not going to tell you their last name, but if you know All in the Family, I mean, read between the lines, okay? They were horrible. The dad would like get in his car and like, I don't know, he was in his 40s at the time, and I was like in my 20s, like early 20s. The dad would get in his car and he'd have to like turn on like 70s or 80s music, whatever his heyday was, 70s, probably late 70s, and like get drunk in his car and like rev it in the driveway, because like he was too drunk to fucking go anywhere. So he just like rev it in the fucking driveway. And I remember one night, it was like the middle of the winter, and he was doing it. And Scarlett was teeny tiny, and she had just gotten to sleep, and Harrison was sleeping, and Rob was just like, I've had it. So like Rob's not a fighty person, so he's not confrontational, but he'll go over and have a talk with you. And this is 100 years before COVID. So he went over and had wanted to have a chat like with this gentleman was sitting in his car, revving the engine as hard as he could. Like literally it sounded like bullets were firing out of it. He had one of those like cherry bomb sort of mufflers, and he was like sitting in his car. He had like, Rob said he had like a million beer cans like littered beside him, and he was just like revving the shit out of the car. I'm like, was he like masturbating? He's like, no, but that would have been funny. So Rob just went like and knocked on the window as hard as he could. The guy was like, whoa! It scared the shit out of him. Right, googly moogly. It scared the fuck out of him. And Rob was just like, he rolled down Rob just went, can you please like maybe turn down your music and like stop revving your car? Cause like it's past 11 o'clock and like my kids are trying to sleep. So could you please like keep it down and like be respectful? He just like looked at him. He was quiet the rest of the night. He didn't say fuck all. He didn't say boo. That guy wouldn't have said shit if his fucking mouth was full of it. But he was quiet, and they never kind of bothered us again. But they had dogs that barked like literally 24/7. And like I didn't call like the bylaw on them. I had many conversations with them being like, hey, can you please get the dogs to stop barking? Like the neighborhood signed a petition and put it in their mailbox to ask them to please have the dogs stop barking. They just didn't care. So if my dog barks for more than like 2 minutes at a time, because the city bylaw, I think it says like 6 minutes of like continuous barking. If my dog like gets really barky and is like really chatty with the dogs at the fence, I bring him inside because that's just a neighborly kind thing to do. You're just not disturbing the peace. But dogs do bark. Neighbors at the back fence, they bark to say hello, as yours bark to say hello to mine. And I like was joking with them like the other day about their dog teaching our dog some manners. And they're just like, ha ha. And then they send us like the most passive aggressive email and then hide inside so they don't have to talk to us. Funny. So, of course, with the duality of those Karens, you always have your best neighbor stories. And my best neighbor stories were my neighbors growing up. Because in my house where I lived on Paddock Green Crescent in London, Ontario, I'm not going to tell you what number because if you're really a super Fania, if you're really a super Tanya fan, maybe you'll go there and take pictures. I don't know. That's something. I'll take pictures and go there one day and be like, this was my childhood home. Maybe I'll do a TikTok or something fun. But I grew up on Paddock Green Crescent, and my neighbors beside us on both sides and even like on the whole street were like a dream. Everybody knew everybody. On one side, I had elderly neighbors that were like empty nesters that were almost like another pair of surrogate grandparents to us. And actually, the gentleman who lived there, his dad was a really famous hockey player for the Habs, for the Montreal Canadiens, Joe Malone. And so him and his wife, he was an accountant, and she went for, I think, her master's of library when she was over 60 and got her master's in university. And we'd go over to their house and we'd have like peanut butter sandwiches. Well, I would. My sister would not. And read Berenstain Bear books. And they'd read them to us and they'd loan them to us. And then we'd talk through the fence and their grandkids would come over and we'd play with them. And they had a dog and her name was Molly Malone, like the song. In Dublin's fair city where girls are so pretty. I sound like a leprechaun. I'm the leprechaun. But no, they were great on the one side. And the other side was actually like my childhood best friend who was a little boy that I play with. And his name was Ian, and we hung out together and played like Ghostbusters together, and we played like Nintendo together. He had like Duck Hunt, and it was awesome. And he had like a Super Scope on his like Super Nintendo, and he had like a Power Glove, and he had like the Game Genie and like all the shit that like I did not have. He had some like crazy shit. He had like all these proton packs that we put on our proton packs, and like a bust. Fucking like we put our guys, whichever character we were from Ghostbusters at the time. I was always like Egon Spangler. I would throw that in like the pocket of my overalls because of course I was fucking wearing overalls, probably like in a backwards hat because I like ultimately looked like I kind of do now, like the ultimate like 12-year-old boy. It's so funny because my sister said that to me the other day. She was like, I saw this picture of you and you look like a 12-year-old boy. Like you've got this like backwards hat on and I was like, that's just how I dress, man. It was really funny. And then she kind of just like laughed and we like left it at that. I don't know. Maybe it's when I was like hitting balls out of the park like Babe Ruth doing the Sandlot. I don't know if you saw that reel, but if you did, if you didn't, go back on my Instagram and just look at that reel. Because if you like the Sandlot, like I do, because like obviously the summer reminds me of baseball. That's like something else I did with my best friend who lived beside me. When we weren't putting Ghostbusters in our pocket and being the characters that we wanted to be while we were playing, because that's how we would transform into the characters. By having the characters in our pocket, like in our pockets, our pocket monsters, our Pokemon, we put our characters in. I'd throw fucking Egon Spangler in my overalls. He'd throw in like Peter or Ray or Winston, like whoever. Like he wouldn't be like a girl or anything like that. He wouldn't be like Irma or anything like that. Or like he wouldn't be anyone female. He wouldn't be like, couldn't count on him to be like Granny Gross or like Janine. He would never be Irma or April, like when we played Ninja Turtles. That's why I throw Irma in there. Like he would not be like any character that like identified as like female. And like for me, when I was a kid, like I really didn't give a shit. Like I would be whatever I wanted to be. Like when it was Ghostbusters, I was always Egon. Like I say, I was always Egon Spangler because I loved like science, and that's why I loved his character. But like I never did played a lot of Barbies with my sister. I never just like got into that. I always had like my G.I. Joes. Like I say, I grew up like I was kind of like a 12-year-old boy. I was like a tomboy. I was blowing things up. I was lighting things on fire, like with firecrackers, playing in the woods a lot, playing in the dirt a lot. Things that kids do not do enough of now. My kids do a lot of it because my kids kind of live a lot of the childhood that I did. Just the good parts. I leave the, the childhood trauma to myself. But like I say, like, you can have so much fun doing those things. Like I say, what did you do? What else? What did you do on Pioneer Day? You know what I did? I got covered in records. I love vinyl. I mean, I spin vinyl like nearly daily. I don't want to use Alexa all the time. And now I think that she can like see my lips moving. I have to apologize about this right now because I'm at a crossroads with my hair. I don't know whether to like just like part the C's and let it grow out or just like cut bangs again. But I didn't want to cut bangs before I did the show because inevitably it would have turned out fucking hilarious. It would have turned out like the episode that my dad, rest his soul, made fun of my ass on. He was like, whoa, on that one episode, and you all know which one it is, where my bangs are like up to here. And I look like the girl from Die Antwoord. Like I look fucking crazy because I cut my bangs. I don't know why, like with a ruler or something. I don't know what I did, but it was some DIY bang action. I don't know. So I don't know if I'm going to keep this going on or if I'm going to have my Betty Page bangs or whatever you want to call them back. I don't know what's going to happen, but either way, I don't know. You decide. I'll decide when I get a pair of scissors in my hand. But I tell you, was records yesterday. It was swimming. It was beanbag toss. It was reading. It was playing board games. I got my ass whooped by my 7-year-old in Monopoly. Like I'm competitive when it comes to like playing board games and stuff like that. Not as competitive as my sister is. Like, it's like if she has a baseball, she's got to whack it over the fucking fence. If she's got a soccer ball, she's got to kick it so hard it goes into the fucking neighbor's yard. She's just always like super competitive. She's like fucking Monica, like off Friends. It's like there's something she just fucking has to win at all costs. And it's not like it's a bad thing at all, because like being competitive and having competitive spirit and wanting to win is good, right? It depends how you lose though. And my son does not like to lose. He does not like to lose. So he wants to win at all costs. So I told him the basic rules and regulations of Monopoly, because it was his first time playing last night. He says 8 and up, but he's 7. But he like literally has the maturity, and I've been told this by like practitioners, of like a 13 or a 14-year-old. He's got such a grasp. I just got his report card in the mail yesterday, actually, which is funny. And he has got straight A's all across the board. So people bitch and complain about homeschooling your kids or distance educationing your kids and all that stuff. And he went from like some B's last term, and mostly A's, but some B's last term. Every B he turned around and turned it into an A or an A plus. And any A minus he had from last term, he turned them into A's or A pluses. The kid's a straight A student across the board. He's functioning above the provincial level. I'm so proud of him. I had to say something, because I'm so fucking proud. It's like it's my proud mom moment. So obviously this kid, his best subject, one of his best subjects and favorite subject actually is math, which is something that I'm not terribly blessed with. I'm not really great at math and not great at numbers, but he is. And so last night we put on Avalon, I think. Yeah, it was Avalon by Roxy Music. We put on Big Pink by the band. And we put on Nat King Cole live at the Sands in Las Vegas in, I think it was January in 1960. He played that concert. We put on, a bunch of records we were listening to last night. We listened to those. And we played some Monopoly. And after telling him the basic rules of the game, it was like Jumanji. Like elephants were running through the room, monkeys were escaping. It was fucking looks like a gibbon, walks like a gibbon, talks like a gibbon. There's gibbons there. If you don't know what they are, they're a primate. I learned that on a podcast from a primatologist. Anyways, I will say, just if you want to listen to a podcast with primatologists on them, listen to Social Animals podcast. This is also a podcast, like I say, that I listen to. And the host actually has graciously agreed to be on the show. Like I say, he's been on tour with a band and he's going to tell me all about that. But like I say, it was Jumanji in here. Speaking of social animals, it was Jumanji up in here as he beat my butt, bought every property that was like expensive up. He like got the boardwalk and like Park Place. Like he like started out of the gate with like Baltic Avenue and then like proceeded to whoop my ass by putting houses on all of his properties and then getting hotels and stuff. I eventually had to like mortgage all of my properties to him and I ended up with like $25 at the end and like declared bankruptcy and just like put up my hands. I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I've been beaten by a 7-year-old. It was so funny. And he was so happy. He wasn't gloating, but he was just kind of like, Mom, I feel really bad for beating you. I can't just sit here and watch you lose, but I can. And I was just like, my dude, I was like, here's the thing. He's like, I feel bad that you're losing. I was like, because he's got a really big Jiminy Cricket. Like he's got a big conscience. He's got such a big heart, that child. And he says to me, I can't just sit here and watch you lose. I'm dying. I can't just sit here and watch you lose. And I was like, dude, of course you can. I was like, that's the point of the game. It doesn't matter if you win or lose. It just, are we having fun? And he's like, yeah, we're having like big fun. Like this is so much fun. Like I love it. And so then like I put on an ABBA record and then he proceeded to kick the shit out of the rest of me. And then we folded the game up and put the pieces away. And like when like he went to bed and everything. Oh my God. So like what other records were we listening to yesterday? This brings me into another story that we have because we were listening to a lot of records yesterday. I put on like more ABBA early in the day because like Rob and I really love ABBA. And I had some like greatest hits album on. My favorite ABBA album is The Visitors. That's my favorite album ever by ABBA because it's just so weird. It's so good. We had a lot of Queen on yesterday. I had on A Night at the Opera. I had A Day at the Races on. I'm in love with my car. I love Queen. There's something about Brian May's tone that's just unmatchable. Absolutely unmatchable. Brian May's tone, oh, it makes my head want to explode. It's so good. It's so amazing. And those are the kinds of records that I listened to growing up with my dad. My dad loved Queen. So of course, all the albums, most of the classic albums that I have are all originals and they're all in mint condition because they were all my dad's, and he gave them to me actually way before he passed away. He gave them to me for Christmas one year. He gave me all these milk crates full of albums, and they were his albums. And I remember he took them out of the car because it was so cold, and he'd put them somewhere to warm up because he didn't want any of the vinyl to crack. And he said, Tanya, make sure you take really good care of those. And I have. I've had them for, well over, how old am I? I'll be 40 in January. Oh, he gave them to me when I was in my 20s. So I've had them for well over, I think, 15 years. And they've been in mint condition ever since. I play them often. But we listen to like a lot of Queen. I listen to some Brand X. If you don't know who Brand X is, it's some like Phil Collins was in Brand X. It's some ex-members of some other British bands and like Genesis and stuff like that. That they did a conceptual album to Peter and the Wolf. So I was kind of listening to that yesterday. It was good. Like I say, I listened to Nat King Cole at the Sands and it's such a vibe. Nat King Cole live at the Sands is such a vibe and it's almost like such a summer vibe because it's Vegas. Even though their album was recorded in January in 1960, it's such a vibe because like you can hear the audience and like the warmness of the audio and the warmness of the audience and it's Nat King Cole. Like what else can I say? He might be one of the most fabulous singers in the history of the world. I love Nat King Cole. And again, another artist that my dad loved next to like Mario Lanza. But like with the real crooners and the real singers, he loved Nat King Cole. He just loved him. So of course, subsequently, like my son also loves him. So does my daughter. And we were listening to Burt Bacharach yesterday. I'll tell you, Burt Bacharach back in the day, he was a slice. I love Burt Bacharach. He's also part of the Wet Panties Club, which is part of the actors and people that I had crushes on when I was younger. So like that was him, Elvis. That all came up on Pioneer Day. You know, those things. That new Elvis movie with Austin Butler looks amazing. I'm actually very looking forward to buying it actually when it comes out. I'm just gonna buy it because I know it's gonna be awesome. I've heard really glowing things about it. I've heard not too many people really like shit on it. So like that's a big summer blockbuster that's out. I'm excited to see that. I want to see more of Elvis. So I listened to some Elvis records yesterday as well, but I also listened to, and this was more for the children's thing, was I listened to the Chipmunks a lot yesterday, and like the Snow White soundtrack. I have that on vinyl. It's like a picture vinyl. It's beautiful. But I listened to the Chipmunks a ton yesterday because the kids wanted to listen to the Chipmunks, but I was like, okay, we can listen to the Chipmunks, but I get to pick the album. They're just kind of like, because I want to listen to Chipmunk Rock. Like that album is a banger. It has like Betty Davis eyes on it. It has Jesse's Girl on it. It has lots of like really good songs on it. And it's songs that like you would know. It has Whip It on it. But it's the Chipmunks singing them. So for the kids, it's fun. And for Rob and myself, like we know the songs, but it's funny because it's in Chipmunk voice. But that brings me to my next thing. So I was thinking about like summer flings and summer relationships because it's summer, right? And it brings me to a summer story that involves the Chipmunks in a very strange way. I once knew a man from Nantucket. No, I'm just kidding. I once knew this guy, and I was thinking about like epic summer like breakups and epic summer makeups and epic summer flings and things like that. I mean, I've had my fair share of summer flings and things and whatever. Haven't we all? No shame, no judgment. There's no judgment fucking here. I don't care. Let your freak flag fly. Do whatever you want. So like I say, I once knew this guy. I'd love to say gentleman, but that would be the wrong term. So I once knew this guy, and he put out, this is the days of putting your name before Tinder, before Plenty of Fish, putting your name in the newspaper and putting out a personal ad to try to get a date. So he put out a personal ad. I don't know what it said. You know, male seeking female for, I don't know what, some kind of, I don't know, sexual encounter. I have no idea what the ad said. So I know someone answered the ad, and she lived in Woodstock, I believe. So he drove there to see her and met her at a coffee shop with her friend. And he's telling me about this. And he said, she was a lot, the first thing he says is, and this is fucking horrible, well, she was a lot like rounder than she fucking like said she was. And I'm like looking at this person and I'm just like, you are also like round. And who are you to hate on anyone's body and body shame? Like you put just male seeking female, not male seeking stick female in the, so she actually looks like a woman. Like, what's your problem? So anyways, what does a woman look like to you? Like, guess what? They all look different. They look like everything. They can look like anything. Take your pick. Idiot. Anyways, so he continues with this story. Oh, she was a lot plumper than I thought. So, but I went back to her. I went back to her place with her anyway, because of course you did. Of course you did. And she, I think was trying to get, they got to talking and they got into small talk and they, we had some conversations. The small talk you make when you're on a first date, like, oh, what's your favorite movie? What's your favorite thing to eat? Like questions, like when you're trying, like when your first date isn't like going well and you're trying to like have those questions. But this is the days before rescue rings and a text saying, I have to come home immediately because this is happening. It's like a lie text that your friend sends you being like, yo, send me a text. This date is fucking horrible. Like, thank God I don't have to go on any of those. God damn it. But anyway, so it's the days before rescue rings and things. So they finally get to the topic of, they talk about their favorite foods and, their childhoods and who knows what they're talking about. Trauma. I don't know, shared trauma. And then they get to their favorite music. And she's like, actually, can you go just put some on? And so he said he went to her collection of music, which at the time was all tapes and CDs. So all she had was cassettes and compact discs. If you don't know what tapes and CDs are, I'm decoding this for you. It's like the Da Vinci Code of 80s and 90s things. It's coming at you right now. I know so much about technology. Nintendo Power Gloves, zip drives, floppy disks, all the things. Laser discs. Have you ever seen laser discs? They're fucking huge. But anyways, so he goes to her music collection, and all it is the Chipmunks and Garth Brooks. And this woman is a woman. Like she's already 18 or 19 or 20 years old. So I guess he got up and just kind of left. He was kind of like embarrassed for what she had and did not like her musical erection selection. So I guess that didn't give him an erection selection, and he bounced. But imagine like going on a date with someone, making fun of them for their weight, and then ditching them because of their music collection. You're a horrible person. My only question, like at the end of this story, when this person finished telling me the story, was I'm like, well, like, was she like nice? Like, at least? He's like, oh yeah, she was totally nice. I'm like, you missed the point completely. Doesn't matter what she listens to. Doesn't matter what she looks like. She was nice. You totally missed that. Some people only see what they want to see. Like, what can I say? Well, I got friends in low places where the whiskey walks and the beer chases my blues away. And I'll be okay. I love Garth Brooks, I'm not going to lie. And I also love the Chipmunks, but that's not all I have in my fucking repertoire. So that's a funny story. So summer lovin', obviously, summer lovin' had me a blast. Obviously, the Grease soundtrack was pumping like a motherfucker yesterday. I can't let my kids watch Grease, obviously, because, oh my God, they say pussy a lot in that movie. I know my mom's watching this and she fucking probably just turned it off. Right now, my poor celibate mom that I threw under the bus. I'm sorry, Maria. I didn't mean to do that to you last week. My poor like, if you don't see me next week, it's because my mom somehow like left some poison food for me on my porch that only I would eat because it's vegan. And I'm dead because I threw her celibate ass under the bus and because I said pussy a few times on the podcast. This weekend I got in trouble because you know what? I'm almost 40 years old and I still get in trouble from my mother. Believe that. You know what though? It's not called trouble though. You know what that's called? It's called fucking respect. Maybe you should get some. Maybe you should have some more respect just for people in general. But like really, I have respect for my mom. And like I say, it's not a fear thing. I'm not afraid of her. I love her and I want to respect her. But I'm sorry, Mom, but I got to drop a P-bomb sometimes. It happens. And so I dropped the celibacy bomb last week. And like I say, I cannot let my kids watch Grease because then they'll hear, you know, she's a real pussy wagon, Grease lightning. And there's other things, obviously. There's a lot of sexual context to that film and a lot of sexual innuendo. And there's a lot of sexual overendo. Like they just come out and say it at times in Grease. But Grease is definitely one of my favorite summer movies. And obviously it makes me think of summer fling, don't mean a thing. Because of course everyone's had a few of those. And I had a summer fling that don't mean a thing. It was, oh God, years and years and years and years and years back in the 2010s probably. And it was with this guy and it was a really hot summer and I was single. And he had a really big pool and it was hot and he was like marginally like good looking and like he was nice to me and he cooked really good. So we went on a few dates and we got along. I remember that was not a summer that I was very sober. I drank a lot through that relationship. So for pretty much that entire relationship, like I was drunk. And that says a lot about that relationship. And this is why I'm sober now. And this is why it's funny. But like, so I was kind of like drunk and kind of like needed a place to just like swim for the summer. So we had this kind of summer fling relationship. But I remember like there were so many red flags. Like whereas I'd have like a couple of like beers, he would sit at the table and have like a 26er of like whiskey with like spaghetti. I'm like, that's a lot of alcohol. Like, holy shit, that's a lot of booze. Like, I have enough, like, I have three, like, I'd be able to walk, but, like, I had a buzz definitely through that whole relationship, if you want to call it that. It was more of a joke, really. But anyways, I broke up with him in the middle of a Tim Hortons. I didn't want to break up with him like anywhere, like in private, because I knew he was going to be like a fucking mess, because he was already like asking me to marry him and like telling me how cute I was going to look pregnant. I'm just like, no. N-O. Fuck no. What the fuck is your problem? You're not going to put a baby in me. Get the fuck out of here. So I'm just like, no. This has to end like immediately. So this guy had it bad. I felt fucking bad for him, but I'd go out on dates with him. This is horrible. I'd go out on dates with him and I'd finish dinner with him and I have another guy pick me up, like, and I'd go out for dessert with him. I fucking hated this guy, but I still dated him. Hated him, but I dated him. This is horrible. This is terrible, terrible 2010 Tanya. Way before kids, way before marriages, all these things. God, I was a horrible person. Horrible. I'm glad she's dead. She's dead. I had a funeral for her. Oh my God, she is gone with the wind. I cremated her. I fired her fucking head out of a cannon. She's gone. But like I say, it's funny. It's a funny story. And like I say, it was bad. I knew I had to break up with him in a public place because I knew he was going to be a fucking mess, like I say. And he was. Like, the red flags were just like flying. So I took him to a Tim Hortons and broke up with him there. And I was just like, I was mean. I was just like, this is not working out. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, what do you mean? What do I mean? I mean, our relationship's not working out. I think that we should probably just like break up. He's like, we can't break up. I'm like, well, that's what we're doing. And like, we're breaking up. And he's like, no, we're not. I'm like, yes, we are. We have to break up. We cannot break up. I'm like, so like, he's trying to like argue me into like staying and not break up with him. I'm like, and then I was just like, you know what? It's not me. It's you. And you're driving me fucking crazy. You're driving my fucking friends crazy. And you're driving my life fucking crazy. And I just got up and I fucking walked away. And he burst into tears. I felt really bad. I felt bad because like, I don't know what it is about. It's not seeing anyone else cry, but it's knowing that you made somebody else cry, regardless of who they are and regardless of how you feel about them. Knowing that you're the cause of that person's like misery, that like makes you feel sad and makes you feel bad. And I at least felt empathy at the time. Now it's a fucking hilarious story. But he was a fucking puddle of a man. He's married now and all that stuff, so he's fine. He's doing fine. But he was a muppet of a man the day I broke up with him. He lost his fucking marbles in Tim Hortons. And I left him there, a crying fucking pile of powdered donuts on the floor of Tim Hortons. That's the most Canadian way to break up with somebody. You just take them to Tim Hortons and fucking berate them. So that was definitely bad. So I guess the only upside to that relationship was that he was just good at cooking, but that was the only upside. Really, he took me to some good restaurants. Like, I mean, like now it wouldn't fly because we were always barbecuing, I remember, but now obviously I'm vegan and he ate a lot of meat. So like that wouldn't have worked anyway. But like I say, we're vegan and you know 100% that myself and Rob obviously are vegan, my partner, like we're vegan, but like obviously we're not indoctrinating our plant children or into pod people and making them go vegan too. They eat still what they ate before and just they get add-ons and they get to try whatever they want. If they want to try some vegan stuff, if they say, hey, can I try that? Then the answer is yes. What are the carbs though with our eldest? But so we obviously still cook meat and animal products for them and things like that. So the other day, oh my God, this is horrible. I was making, the kids were like, can you make bacon and eggs? I'm like, yeah, whatever. That's like a normal breakfast for them in our house. They'll have bacon and eggs and toast and fruit salad and yogurt and whatever. So throwing some rye bread in the toaster. So I'm going to crack some eggs into the pan and whatever. So I cracked the first egg. Perfect. Beautiful. Goes in the pan. I should start a fucking cooking show. Cracked the second egg in the pan. I don't have the glasses on yet. It's early in the morning. I don't got my glasses on. I can't see a fucking thing, but I've got my color on. And the eggs are pink. And I'm like, why are the eggs pink? I'm like, So I go get my glasses. I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? There's a fucking chicken embryo in one of the fucking eggs. It's bleeding all over the fucking pan. The pan looks like the fucking heart-shaped box video, like from Nirvana. Like it's fucking in utero cover. Like it looks like it is in utero. It was disgusting. So I promptly threw up into the garbage can. I threw the pan, like I threw the eggs out in the garbage pan too. It just, baby chicken and all. I was like, Rob, it was not one of my finest moments. So I made them like different eggs and made sure they were safe and everything and didn't have weird little chicken babies in them. But it was fucking horrible. I have had a week, like, it was like, that was like a barfing nightmare. I had another barfing nightmare, obviously. This barfing nightmare was actually more of a Frank Zappa song than a barfing nightmare. It was more like, watch out where the Labradors go. Don't slip in that shit, you hoe. And then you get dragged around the backyard. So I was not watching where I was going as I was repairing the deck the other day, and I was banging. Maybe this is why the neighbors were complaining, but like you can't complain that people are repairing their decks anyways. So I'm banging nails and stuff, and then I'm outside in shoes that are already slippery, and then I all of a sudden slip in Willie Nelson's poop. I slip in the doggy doo-doo, and then I fall on my ass, and then I get dragged around in the backyard, and the dog drags me around the backyard, and I get whapped around. My favorite baby seal takes me around the backyard, and with a lead-filled snowshoe, I get fucked. The dog drags me around the backyard. I get dragged through the mud. I've got shit on the bottom of my shoe. It's not my finest hour. This has not been a good week with injuries for me. It's not been fun. And it reminds me of a story when I was younger. My other yellow lab, like Misha. So Willie Nelson got me this week. Misha, my yellow lab from when I was a kid, also got me and pulled me with a leash. I took him out for a walk in the middle of the snow with my dad, probably too young to take him for a walk. But obviously, you know, like I thought I was like Louisa. I was like, I'm the strong one. I'm the strong one. Come on, Dad, give me the leash. You can't go wrong one. And my dad handed me the leash, and it was the winter time, and the sidewalks were like, I'm going to admit, they were icy. They were super icy. I took the leash anyway, and I took Misha. This was my yellow lab at the time. I took Misha, and we were walking along just fine. Everything was fine. We were walking along just fine. And then all of a sudden he saw something, and he fucking darted for it. And then I went like flip. And I flipped on my back, and he pulled me across the sidewalk. And there's my dad. My poor dad was like losing his mind with concern, running after me, trying to catch me and the dog, trying to like hold on to me. The dog's going, and I didn't want to let go of the dog because I was like, my dog, I don't want him to run away. And my dad's just like, my kid, like fucking let go of the dog. Fuck, you're gonna get dragged into the road. Like fuck. So it was probably not a horrible experience for me as it was like for my dad. Misha was, I'll tell you, he was a good dog. They will say that dogs are man's best friend. I think that's true because all my dogs love to drag me. Misha was a great dog. Like one day I rode him into the fence. We just, you know, he was getting bigger. I was younger, stupid. I thought I'm going to ride him like a pony. We had a big privacy fence in the back of my house. I rode him into it. He went straight on to the fence, and I went straight. He turned like to the right, and I kept going straight. A connection was made in the face, right in the face, in the fence. The dog was fine. I was not. I got a smush face, but it was fine. It was funny. But I think he was a good dog. He was a really good dog. He was a loyal dog. He lived like a pretty good long time. Like I say, when I mentioned Willie Nelson, it's funny. I mentioned Willie Nelson the other day on a Zoom chat. I was having like a Zoom meeting, and I mentioned our dog, like Willie Nelson. And admittedly, on this Zoom chat, I was dressed casually. Everyone else, like on this Zoom chat, was like majorly like in skirts and suits and, you know, like stuffed shirts and collars and things like that. And like they're all like in their professional gear. And I was wearing a tie-dyed shirt and like a tie-dyed bandana. And you've seen it on Stranger Things episodes. You've seen it on my other episodes. You know how I dress. Sometimes I dress like Dr. fucking Jacoby. Sometimes there's Jacoby vibes if you watch Twin Peaks. Oh, Twin Peaks. I don't want to talk about that right now. That'll make me sad. I'm not going there. I'm not going there. You'll see it in my stories. But like, as I'm talking to everybody on Zoom and they say, oh, Willie Nelson's coming to do this or whatever, is going to do this, they all kind of like give me this like everyone in the Zoom box, like in the like fucking little, the Hollywood Squares thing, kind of like all look at my square and they're all like scratching their head about the Willie Nelson thing. And like they think I'm talking about the fucking weed smoking outlaw of country, like Willie Nelson, like braids. I'm like, I get it. And I said, like, I get it. I'm wearing a bandana and a tie-dyed shirt. Like, me and Willie go way back. I'm like, I'm talking about my dog. And they all have like an awkward sigh of relief and kind of like a laugh, but kind of not. So it was funny to see everybody's face when I talked about Willie Nelson. And like, they're all wearing suits and everything too. Like, I'm in a suit too, only it's like literally full tie-dye. I'm in a full tie-dyed suit. Everything is tie-dyed. Everything is awesome, because why not? That's one thing I have been obsessed with lately. And like, speaking of like, you know, going off the grid and no internet and no technology and things like that, I love tie dyeing. It's like recently become one of my new favorite hobbies, because I used to love to do it when I was younger. And I used to love, you know, tie dyeing, making your own ice cream, doing things outside, things you could do. But tie-dyeing is something you can do outside. I can get the kids going. Rob can get into it. Like, you know what I mean? I can tie-dye stuff like for my mom. I can make her a tie-dyed shirt. I can do some fun stuff. You know, it's my jam. I'm a huge hippie. Let's face it. I love being outside and tie-dyeing shirts. It's the jam. But like I say, I recently got back into it and I'm loving it. I'm loving tie-dyeing everything that we have. Bandanas, scarves, tablecloths, old white shirts, you know, reverse tie-dyeing with bleach, and oh, that's fun. I saw some reverse tie-dyeing reels actually on my friend Abby. She does, you know, the Abby Darling custom jewelry that I wear on her page. If you go to Abby Darling Customs, you can get some jewelry a la these custom jewelry pieces that I wear that were custom made actually by her. Abby made these herself. She sent me this one as a little gift in the mail one day. It came, it says Volcano Girl. That is our mutual love of Louise Post, obviously, of one half of former Veruca Salt, and obviously full whole of herself. And she released a new album lately. Oh my gosh. And of course, we both bought it. It's insanely good. You got to go see Louise Post on Bandcamp, like right now. She goes under like Louise Lightner Post. Her solo stuff is absolutely fucking phenomenal. It blew my mind. I've listened to that record so many times and just cried and cried and cried and cried, because it's such a time capsule. It's such a void for me, and it's such a period of time. It's beautiful. Oh my God. Go listen to it right now. Go listen to Louise Post. You have to. Go listen to Veruca Salt. Just go back to the 90s and just have a listen. It's good. Go back. That's something, like I say, it's important. I played a lot of that music like as a kid, and so it's important that I still play that music now. Like it's important. It's good for everyone to listen to. It's good for my kids to get into. It's good for them to know like what I kind of grew up on. There's some of it they can't listen to, obviously, of the bands that I listened to growing up. There's some bands that I don't let them listen to, obviously. There's a lot of just like very explicit language. And I'm just like, yeah, you don't need to listen to that. They're never going to be able to get YouTube or the TikTok or anything like that. So, you know what? I'm fine with it. That's good. Don't let them see. They don't need to see it. I will say, it is definitely a hot, sort of wet Canadian summer, I guess. Like it's wet because I've been in the pool a lot and sprinkling and gardening and all those things like that. It hasn't been wet because we haven't had a tremendous amount of rainfall, but it's been muggy. It's been sticky. So I guess it has been a wet, hot Canadian summer. It's been kind of gross. I don't love it. I don't love it. People like me do not fare well in this weather. I either freckle or turn into a lobster. I will be under the sea with Sebastian and the rest of my little crab friends all week, dying of sunstroke and heat stroke. But obviously, when I'm not dying of sunstroke and heat stroke, you're going to know where to find me. You're going to find me right here, probably on my YouTube channel. If you're watching this, you'll find me at Tanny Candler channel on YouTube channel. If you want to watch me on YouTube, I'm always there. You can stream 21st Century Rocker Mom podcast wherever you stream your podcast. You can stream it wherever you so choose. You can find me on Instagram at 21st Century Rocker Mom. You can find me on TikTok at the same thing, 21st Century Rocker Mom. And then you can find me on Twitter, tweeting my ass off about everything and anything, just at Tanya Candler, my regular name. If you want, I want you to take a minute, if you like hot sauce, to check out my fabulous sponsor, Scoville City. Scoville City Hot Sauces. You can just go to at Scoville City on Instagram. It'll be in my stories. You'll be able to find Scoville City, our fabulous sponsor, who's been providing me with the most wonderful sauces and the Vecna burn from the Ghost Busted. When you're talking about flying around with your neighbor in Ghostbusters, all you can really think is about Ghost Busted sauce from Scoville City. That's what came to mind literally as I was thinking about this show. So there you go. It's been a wonderful week. It's been a wonderful time to be with you. I'm going to leave you with a little teaser, some comments and DMs I've been getting, because this morning, of course, after the great internet outage and shortage, and I guess it was an internet shortage. Nobody got any. And, well, it is what it is. And, but I guess in that time, I mean, I got a lot of messages about Rob and my dynamic on the show. And I always say it's great when we can make our schedules collide. So there'll be a little bit more about that in the shows to come, about when we can make our schedules collide and what we can do. I said when we can make our schedules collide, it's 24 karat magic. So look forward to that. Look forward to guests, because they're coming back. You've seen a few guest spotlights in my things up on the Insta of the gram. Look forward to it. I look forward to seeing all of you next week back on the podcast. Have a wonderful week. I love you. I'll check you next week. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Have your dog or cat spayed or neutered. Help control the pet population.